The Super Mario Bros. Movie is now in theaters, and this is my review. The first half of this video is going to be spoiler-free. The second half of this video is going to have spoiler talk, and we're going to go over Easter eggs and things I was fanboying about in the movie. But I don't want to be the one to spoil you on a lot of those things, because that was half of the fun of watching this film. So there will be a big warning and a bumper between the spoiler segment and the spoiler-free segment. So just keep that in mind. We have a lot of stuff to go over, so let's make like Mario, and let's go! So right at the very beginning of this video, I want to say this. If you like Mario, Donkey Kong, or Nintendo at all, or you have a family member that likes any of those things at all, or you grew up playing video games, or you have any familiarity whatsoever with the characters and the world of Super Mario, I think you are going to enjoy this movie. There is so much and so many little Easter eggs packed into the 90 minutes that make up this film that I feel like it was difficult for me to not have a smile the entire time. I went to an 11 a.m. matinee here in LA for this movie. The theater was packed with adults, and the person next to me was freaking out over a lot of little things and the music and sound effects that the characters were making, and I was freaking out right there with them. It was such an enjoyable time. It is a roller coaster. It is, at the end of the day, an Illumination animated film. I will say that if you are looking for like a deep story, if you want something like a moving Pixar movie story, you're not going to get that in this movie at all. There are bits of that with Mario and Luigi towards the end of the film, but for the most part, it's not really like a tearjerker kind of movie. It's more a celebration of the world of Super Mario, which is absolutely fine with me. When they first announced that this movie was going to be made by Illumination, the people who make the Minions, I was a little concerned. I was thinking, what's Toad going to look like? What are the characters going to look like? What is the world going to look like? Is the movie going to be filled with fart jokes? Thankfully, that is not the case. There is, I think, one burp joke in the entire movie. It doesn't really land, and the theater didn't think it was funny either. The rest of the movie is highly entertaining, and that is thanks in large part to the voice cast. I am supremely impressed by the voice cast, and I want to kick things off with an apology. I am sorry, Chris Pratt, that I doubted you. I am so sorry that I was making fun of you when they first announced that you were going to be Mario. He actually does a very good job in this movie. The very beginning of the film, you get a little glimpse of like what could have been with him as Mario, and then the voice that he sort of falls into through the rest of the movie, I think really works. It still has like the Mario twang, but is definitely not as in your face as I would have expected when they first announced the film. And the other one that I think was a huge standout, no big surprise, Jack Black as Bowser. Without getting too deep into spoilers, because I just spoiled something and I have to cut the video now, Jack Black does such a good job with the cadence of Bowser's voice, and you could tell that like when he was in the recording booth making this movie, that he was probably moving around and doing a whole bunch of different things when reading out Bowser's lines. He is so great. Every time Bowser was on screen, I looked forward to it. This little sequence that happens in the middle that, again, I don't want to spoil, had me losing it. I was laughing so hard at this scene. He did such a phenomenal job. I had no reason to think that Jack Black wouldn't absolutely kill it as Bowser, and he totally delivered, and I'm really, really happy to report that. And that's not to say that everybody else wasn't good either. I feel like the majority of the voice cast really nailed it. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad never really got annoying for me. Seth Rogen, Donkey Kong, was just straight up Seth Rogen, but it works in a weird way. Once you see how they characterize Donkey Kong in this movie, it definitely makes a lot of sense. And of course, no huge surprise, Charlie Day completely nails it as Luigi as well. He's got just the right type of anxious, nervous, scaredy cat energy that you would expect from a Luigi, and I knew he was going to be great from the moment that they announced he was going to be the character. I feel like he's fantastic on Always Sunny, and he makes sense for Luigi. The one thing I will say is this is the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I feel like there's a big chunk of this film where Luigi is nowhere to be seen. Now, from a story point, makes a lot of sense, because on a very basic level, again, this is spoiler-free part of the review, they sort of turn the damsel in distress thing on its head in this movie. Peach is basically the one who teaches Mario the ropes of the Mushroom Kingdom, and Luigi is the one that they have to save from Bowser. So because he's with Bowser for the majority of the movie, I understand why he's not there in a lot of other important sequences, but I do feel like there's fun stuff that they could have done with him in the area that he's in Bowser's castle. Again, I just really liked Charlie Day as Luigi, and I feel like they kind of underused him a little bit. Would have loved more of him, because the bits that were there of him were absolutely fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, the score of this movie. Brian Tyler did such a good job orchestrating and remixing so many of Koji Kondo's iconic themes from the Mario video games. There were definitely moments in the film that almost brought a tear to my eye just because of the way the music swelled at just the right moment. And there were certain games that got remixed that I did not expect to be in this movie at all. By the way, though, one quick thing. There's a certain Donkey Kong song that is in this movie. Not going to give away what it is, but there's a Donkey Kong song that's in this movie, and there's no credit for Grant Kirkhope, who wrote the song in the original game. I think that's kind of weird. They should definitely give him credit for that, because it's a really funny sequence when it happens in the movie. But bringing it back to the score, I went to an 11:30 a.m. matinee of the Mario Brothers movie here in LA, and there were grown people standing up and cheering at certain moments when a musical theme kicked in. Almost every major Mario game gets referenced in some way in the score of this movie, even if it's only for a couple seconds, but you'll notice it immediately. There's also a great musical sequence with Jack Black's Bowser in this movie that I absolutely loved, but much like I was saying with Charlie Day's Luigi, I feel like it could have gone on longer. We could have had more of that. I feel like it got to a really, really good part, and right as it was about to crescendo, boop, they kind of take it away from you, and you're like, oh man, I just wanted more of that. And unfortunately, you don't really get it, which is a bit of a bummer. I wish they would have just taken a little more time and fleshed that out into something more. Again, not to say what we got wasn't enjoyable and fun. It's just that he did such a good job, and I wanted more of it. Something we definitely didn't need more of in this movie, though, were the licensed 80s songs. There's a couple sequences that are really well done and packed with fun moments for our characters, but the background music is like I Need a Hero, or like Take Me On, and you're like, why is this playing in the Mario film? You have this vast library of Mario music to choose from, and you go default to old 80s songs. Like, I understand why they did it. Obviously, the Mario games originally came out in the 80s. They want to harken back to the nostalgia for people who maybe played when they were kids and are now adults bringing their kids to the movie, but that did not work for me at all. I feel like they absolutely could have had Brian Tyler just do more remixes and orchestrations of classic Mario themes, and they would have worked just as well, if not better, over those sequences. But while we're on the topic of the action sequences, the other thing I want to bring up is just how good the animation is in this movie. I was actually reading a bunch of production details that Universal released. This is about like a week and a half ago, and they were talking about on the press tour for the Mario movie how they were developing all these new lighting techniques and animation techniques to make this movie look as good as possible. And it is very clear from like the first 5 minutes of this movie, this is hands down the prettiest movie Illumination has ever made. The animation quality is stunning. The facial expressions I think are really good. The characters are stretching and bouncing all over the place and are moving naturally in a way that you would expect from them, and I just think they translated really well, thanks in large part to the quality of the animation of the movie. And beyond the voice cast and the music and the animation, once again, I just want to say how clear it is, as somebody who loves Nintendo, obviously, and covers Nintendo, and also loves movies, like just how much love was put into this Mario Brothers movie. I definitely see a universe in which this could have been really, really bad. And that was not the case at all, and I think they did a really great job with it. I wish there was more of it. Like I said, I understand why it's a 90-minute runtime. I'm also, I think, happy that it's a 90-minute runtime so I can then go rewatch it again and again and again. But that was my main feeling throughout the course of the movie, was just like, ooh, I want more of this. Ooh, I want more of this. Ooh, I want to see this sequence again, which I guess is a good sign. I think they nailed exactly what they were supposed to nail with the tone of the film and the characters and just the music and everything, other than, like I said, the weird license track. Now, with that being said, I cannot contain it any longer. There is so much cool stuff that I want to talk about, but I am barred by this spoiler-free section. So I'm actually going to throw it to an ad break for my friends over at Viz, and then we're going to move directly into the spoiler section of the video. You have been warned. Did you know that mangaka Tetsuya Endo actually wrote another series revolving around characters living a double life nearly a decade before Spy Family? In this earlier work titled Tista, the titular character lives a double life as both a university student who studies studying to become a teacher, and also as the Grim Reaper of New York City, due to the fact that she has incredible eyesight that allows her to make long-range shots with near perfect accuracy. And while she knows she's doomed to eventually be taken down the same way as many of the members of the criminal underground that she's so feared by, she ends up catching feelings for a young man who just might be able to pull her back from the abyss. The question is, what's going to happen when he finds out who she really is? Tista is a fast-paced series that's actually a really fun read if you've already read Spy Family, mostly due to the fact that you could see just how much DNA from this series made it into Spy Family and turned it into such a success. Volume 1 of Tista is available to pre-order right now on Viz.com or wherever books are sold, and once again, I highly recommend this if you're looking for something fun to read while you're waiting for the next season of Spy Family. Definitely check it out. Alright, spoiler warning, we are about to jump into the spoiler section of my Mario movie review. If you don't want to be spoiled on certain things of this movie, leave now. This is your last warning. 3, 2, 1. Diddy Kong? Pauline? Like, what? The blue shell is a character? He actually becomes a character? There is so much packed in this movie in terms of Nintendo cameos and Easter eggs. This was a little list that I made of stuff that I noticed on my very first watch through this morning, where I'm just sitting back and absorbing it. I'm not even purposely looking for Easter eggs, and these are things that I noticed. Okay, every mainline Mario is pretty much referenced. Mario Kart, Yoshi's Island, Donkey Kong 64, Donkey Kong Country, Punch-Out. There's a Punch-Out pizzeria, and there's pictures of all the different, Punch-Out characters in the background. Duck Hunt, Wave Race. There's a part where there's a little, news bar that talks about a wave race competition as the city is flooding with Mayor Pauline talking about it. It's incredible. Kid Icarus, of all the Nintendo games, they have Mario sit there playing the original Kid Icarus on an old NES. Incredible. Wrecking Crew, obviously we knew that Spike was going to be a character in the movie. They didn't show him in any of the promotional material, but we knew that Sebastian Maniscalco was voicing him. He's there very briefly in the very beginning. He's there very briefly at the very end when Bowser shows up in New York City. He's great. Balloon Fight. They have Balloon Fight at one point. The GameCube startup song. Okay, so there's a phone in the beginning of the movie that goes dun 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 dun, and they pick it up and it's Mario's mom. It's the best. All right, the Famicom Disk System startup guy. Discoon, the little cute floppy disk guy. I'll put him on screen right now. That shows up at one point in the movie. There's so much more. Like I said, cameos: Diddy, Dixie, Kitty, Chunky, Pauline. The blue shell, again, the blue shell becomes a character. The blue shell, known from Mario Kart, that obviously hits you when you're in first place. He's basically a special Koopa that's driving this giant mech thing that's chasing down Mario on Rainbow Road. And it's about to kill Mario, and then Mario stomps on him, turns him into the shell, and then jumps on the back of Donkey Kong and throws a barrel from Donkey Kong's cart in a Double Dash reference at him, which is already phenomenal. And then as they're getting away, the blue shell's like, "You can never get away from me, I'm the blue shell!" And he sprouts the wings and flies and knocks them down and shoots them into the water, where they then get eaten by the giant eel from Mario 64, and this cute little blooper is there with them. It's just oh my gosh, the whole sequence on Rainbow Road was so much fun. And the lead up to that sequence with the making of the carts in the Jungle Kingdom, where you're going in there and they play the Mario Kart 8 music, the dun 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 dun, Mario TV, oh my gosh, dude. And then you've got Toad and Peach and Mario, and they're rolling the little roulette and they're picking out their wheels and everything. There's so much there that I loved. I was sitting there in the movie theater like this for the entire Mario Kart sequence from beginning to end, like this. Because that came right after the sequence with Mario and Donkey Kong basically playing Smash Brothers, where they're in the Ring of Kong or whatever. Oh my gosh, it was just so much fun. And like I said, so many of these cameos. I just thought of another one, Pikmin. There's a bunch of Pikmin cameos in this. Makes sense. Miyamoto loves Pikmin. He's going to shove those little guys in there wherever he can. There's a sequence in the beginning of the movie in New York City in which Mario and Luigi are fixing the sink at this rich lady's house, and this dog named Francis is chasing after them, and you see clearly from the picture that's on the wall that it's supposed to be a reference to the Duck Hunt dog, which, by the way, also super weird. There's a trailer for a new Illumination movie called Migration that played at the very beginning of this movie, and I could have sworn that it was a Duck Hunt short film or something at the beginning. It wasn't. Like I said, it was a teaser for another film. But oh my gosh, dude, the Duck Hunt dog even showing up, I think, was wild. Charles Martinet, I have to talk about this. Okay, Charles Martinet, who he voices in the movie, you know how so many people, Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario. I'm sorry, I gotta slow down. I'm just like super excited talking about this. Charles Martinet is the actual voice of Mario, right, in the video games. And a lot of people were upset that he wasn't actually voicing Mario in the movie. So what he voices in the movie instead is Mario and Luigi's biological father. And like, I think one of their cousins and their brother, and then also a guy that's playing this game called Jumpman that's actually in the Punch-Out Pizzeria. Like, I can't believe these are even words coming out of my mouth. And the little guy playing the Jumpman game goes, "Let's go!" And it's clearly Charles Martinet. And then again, it's clearly Charles Martinet talking to them when they're at the dinner table, and we meet Mario's extended family. Like, what they did with the Mario clan in this movie, I thought was super cute. Like, the fact that they really were like, no, we are going to make it very clear they are from Brooklyn. They are from New York City. We're going to highlight New York City. We're going to have Pauline be the mayor. I thought that was great. And then having Bowser, like, warp his way in after the giant Bonsai Bill thing comes through the warp pipe, and then they all explode and they get warped into New York. I thought that sequence was great too. I loved it. Okay. Fanboy section over. I was really just losing my mind at like so many of the references that they threw in there. And again, the musical choices. Like, I'm sitting there watching the end credits, right? Waiting, because you know there's going to be an end credit scene. And there's two. There's a mid-credit sequence, and then there's an end credit sequence. The mid-credit sequence is just like a funny little thing that references the end of the movie. And then the end credit sequence, I think, is teasing where we're going next. Because this is a spoiler section, I'm just going to say what the little end credit thing is. It's like the old Godzilla movies where you see the egg and it hatches and you hear something. It's that, but it's Yoshi. And you see Yoshi egg and the crack, and then you hear Yoshi, and that's that's it. So I'm assuming the next Mario movie, because they're going to have to make one, because I'm sure this movie is going to make $1 billion and everyone is going to go see it, probably really enjoys it. I'm sure they're going to do something with like bringing Yoshi back to the Mushroom Kingdom, because at the end of the movie, Mario and Luigi, it seems like they still live in New York, but they commute through the warp pipes to then be plumbers in the Mushroom Kingdom. I just thought that was really cool. Dude, again, the Easter eggs in the Mushroom Kingdom. When I say they reference every mainline Mario game, I mean they reference every mainline Mario game. There are coins from Yoshi's Island. There's a sequence with baby Luigi and baby Mario as kids on the playground, and you see them with their little eyes from the game. There's like a thing with toddler Peach. There's no baby Peach, but you have like toddler Peach when she gets taken in by the Toads and becomes princess of the Mushroom Kingdom. It's like, oh, dude, the music tracks, what they do with some of the action sequences in which they turn it basically into a side scroller, and you have like Mario and Donkey Kong buddying up, using the power-ups, jumping through the Mushroom Kingdom, and it literally looks like a Mario level. Or the very beginning of the movie, there's a sequence in New York City in which they're jumping up and down in the city on like a wrecking crew looking area, because there's barrels and stairs and things like that, and they're jumping all the way around this sequence, and it looks like a Mario thing, and at the end he grabs onto a pole, slides down it, and then it says like Castle Burger or something. It's just so cute. Again, it's the attention to detail to everything that makes Mario so special that they completely nailed in this movie. There's so much cool stuff there. Also, I will say this, I actually like what they did with Peach. I've seen a lot of people who are like, oh, Peach isn't cute enough or whatever, like they're making her too much of a warrior. I actually thought it was good, like what her role was in the movie, how they explained that she was actually like a toddler from another galaxy, potentially, she references. She brings up there's all these galaxies out there, and then you've got Luma Lee, obviously, in the prison with Luigi, even though I will say Luma Lee's little shtick kind of like got to me by the end. I'm like, okay, Luma Lee, like wrap it up. But still very cute, obviously, and I think the kids are going to love that character, and I would like to see more of that character in something like, you know, a Mario movie 2 or whatever with Yoshi and Rosalina or something. I don't know, but I digress. Beyond that stuff, the only real other major gripe that I have in this movie is there are a lot of sequences, not just with weird licensed 80s music, but also with slow motion. Like, they rely heavily on slow motion shots where the characters are running and then you just go, whoa, and then it cuts immediately to the next scene. And at first it's like, okay, this is fine. But then the 5th or 6th time it happens in the movie, you're like, okay, can we get on with this? Like, this doesn't really work. Again, there's like one burp joke in the movie that didn't really land, and it's the eel when he's, you know, sitting there after eating Mario and Donkey Kong and they ate their cart. Oh my gosh, that sequence too. Wait a minute, I'm thinking of something else. Wait a minute, something else I want to talk about. When the eel eats Mario and Donkey Kong, and then, you know, in the sequence beforehand, Donkey Kong shoots this barrel off of his cart. When the eel eats him, Donkey Kong then grabs the second barrel, and him and Mario make it out of there like the flying barrel sequences in Donkey Kong Country Returns. That was something I was not expecting. My theater was cheering, again, 11:30 a.m., cheering at this part of the movie. It was so much fun. If you can see this with other Nintendo fans, do it. Because again, there are way more references that I'm not bringing up here because I just didn't notice them my first time seeing this movie, and I already want to go watch it again and see all those little things. Luigi's Mansion, they bring up Luigi's Mansion, the motif of Luigi's Mansion. Even like, again, when they first introduced Luigi, I just wish there was more of him in this movie. When they first introduced Luigi and it goes through the forest in the Darklands, and you've got these like super creepy zombie looking dry bones that are chasing him. That sequence is awesome. I would love to see some type of Luigi's Mansion movie with that. Same animators, same tone of that scene. I think it would work perfectly for like a kid's horror film. Please make it happen. Oh my God, I thought of another cameo. As I said it, I just thought of another cameo. King Boo shows up at the wedding at the end of this movie between Bowser and Peach. And another character that shows up is King Bob-omb from Mario 64. We also see Bob-omb Battlefield. We saw Tostarena. But anyway, King Bob-omb shows up at the wedding. And then Peach lights him on fire at one point. It's crazy. And then he explodes. And the Ice Flower power-up shows up. The Cat Mario power-up shows up. The Tanuki suit power-up shows up. There's just so many cool sequences and Easter eggs that reference classic, iconic Mario games and power-ups, and I absolutely loved it, as you can't already tell from the excitement that is probably exuding through your screen right now. I was just having an absolute blast, and I cannot wait to see this movie again. I just thought of another thing. There's a Star Fox little Arwing on the mantle of Mario's TV in his apartment too. Like I said, and that stuck with me on the first viewing. Like I said, when I see this again and again and again, I'm sure I'm going to pick out another things. But on the whole, dude, it's just so much fun. And the sequence that I was bringing up earlier during the spoiler-free portion in regards to Jack Black and something else that I wanted in the movie is he sings this song where he's like, peaches, 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 and he's playing the piano and he's singing about his love for Princess Peach and why he wants to marry her, because that's really his whole push for getting the superstar. He just wants to impress Peach, and Peach is like, I'm not going to marry you. What are you talking about? And then he just goes wild, and Mario and Luigi grab it at the ending in the action sequence, and it's great. But yeah, I wish there was more of that song in the movie, because again, Jack Black nails it, the whole theater loved it, and it was just overall a great time. But I think we're going to wrap it up there. I don't want to go into too much more detail. I want you guys to see the movie for yourself and then talk to me about it. Were there any references that I missed during my spoiler portion Easter egg rant? Because again, this is my first viewing of the movie. I'm sure there's things that I did miss. If I did, leave them in the comments down below. Leave a like on this video if you liked anything I had to say, and please be sure to subscribe if you want more movie reviews from me in the future. I'm RogersBase. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Woohoo! Uh-oh.